to season 2, episode 2 of the Dugout Dads local sports podcast, where our skills are questionable,
but our spirit is unstoppable.
I'm your host, Michael Hughes, with my co-host,
Jonathan Parker,
and our producer,
Matthew Inyard.
Guys, we want to welcome everybody into the night show. We're going to get into it pretty quick tonight, but Jonathan, week 1 of high school football has started. I guess technically it is week 0. I think that's what they call it now. So high school football has started. The atmosphere at the high school this way, or Watertown High School for Smith County, was pretty electric, and Gornsville being in Coalfield. Middle school football started. College football has started this weekend. So football is back.
Football is back. And, I went to Green Hill in Mount Juliet on Thursday and watched Green Hill and Beach. And it was at Watertown Friday. And, the atmosphere, it's back, baby. And, just an exciting time to kick off the football season. But, man, it's and it was a great Big 12 game on Saturday with Iowa State and Kansas State. And then, of course, this Thursday it gets rocking and rolling. And, of course, Tennessee plays Saturday in Atlanta at Syracuse. So,
yeah, and Matt, and Matthew, you talk about a little bit about the Gornsville kind of fiasco that happened there Friday night. You get lightning delays and then power outages, and you guys didn't get to finish there.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's a great atmosphere. If you've never been to Coalfield, highly recommend it. Facilities are really great. Reminds you a lot of Smith County and Gordonsville. The whole town comes out. It is great atmosphere for small town high school football. Great time. Gordonsville did great on their first showing out. Has some things that they need to work on, but I mean that's what the first game is all about. We just got to figure out what's going on. What's going to work, what's not going to work, and they did improvements with that. But the weather just kept trying to be around us for whatever reason. So we had one lightning delay that lasted forever, it seemed like. And Gordonsville got the ball back and punched it in. And then as they got ready to do kickoff, that's when the second one happened. And then all the coaching staff around us for Gordonsville was saying there's a major rainstorm coming. Like it's going to be a big one. Let's clear out. So we all cleared out, and then the power went off in the high school. Apparently there was some power outages in Oak Ridge, and that's how they get their power with substation. So then it was, what are we going to do? And then finally the refs called it. So it was, they wanted to finish the game, and Coalfield came up to several of us and said, you guys got a great program. You remind us a lot about us. Can't look forward, can't wait to continue playing you guys next season. But it was, great atmosphere for high school football, and it made you really want to, it set the tone for the season that, it's back and we're ready to do some things.
And before we get too deep into going through all the high school scores and talk about both of the games, we got to thank our sponsors, right? We couldn't do Dugout Dads without our sponsor. We got to thank our title sponsor, Kobe McKinney with Underwood Realty. We thank Kobe for what he's done for our program or for our show here. And he's our second-year title sponsor. We really appreciate Kobe. So for all your realty needs, go see Kobe McKinney at Underwood Realty. Hashtag Holly for being our Player of the Week sponsor. Holly's been a great supporter of the Dugout Dads. She sponsors our Player of the Week T-shirts, and we highly appreciate that with hashtag Holly's and Be the Gift. And then Infinity Promotions, who does a lot of our swag, and then in my backdrop that you see behind us, which will be at our live shows now. We thank him. Stephen Bronte runs Infinity Promotions. We thank them for what they do for some of our apparel and now doing our backdrop. So we thank all of our sponsors here at Dugout Dads.
And if you would be interested in a sponsorship with us, just reach out to us and let us know.
And Jonathan, we'll move on and we'll go to some scores across the region. If you want to break down some scores, we'll dig into that.
Sure. So some scores from week 1. We got Jackson County with a big 42-32 win over Clinton County, Kentucky. DeKalb County with a 19-16 win over Warren County. Cannon County, 31-0 win over Monterey. Lebanon with a big win over Nolensville, 27-22. And two of the big games I wanted to touch base on, you had Alcoa with the big matchup with Maryville. Alcoa wins again, 28-21. And then Oakland CPA, another big matchup, week 1 coming out of the gate. Oakland wins that 28-14. And Friendship Christian 34-7. I want to touch base on Friendship Christian for just a moment. I actually had a family member that is a running back there at Friendship. He had 223 yards and 4 touchdowns against Trousdale. So congratulations, Jade McGowan. Continue the great work, and we may reach out to you to come on the show in the future if we can. So, and of course, the 2 games here locally in our county, you had Gornsville with a 21-18. I'm assuming win. It said no contest for the longest, but when you look on the TSSAA website, it says 21-18, Gordonsville with a win. And then, of course, Smith County goes into Watertown and picks up a big 28-23 victory to kick off the season. And then, of course, our middle school is off to a great start. They're off to a 3-0 start with a big 20-14 win over Overton.
And Jonathan, that's where we'll start tonight's show. We'll start on the middle school level, and then we'll dig into Coach Dyer for the high school, and then have our Player of the Week segment with him, and then we'll finish up the show with talking about Gornsville's game. We'll start on the middle school level. We're talking about Smith County and Overton. We go into Overton County, down up in Livingston, play those guys. A very tough ball game, right? It's the first game that I've ever been a part in, and Coach Gammons would love to be here tonight, but he had another prior engagement, so I'm going to speak to our middle school team tonight. But, Jonathan, it's the first game that I've ever played in or coached in that we run 14 offensive plays the whole game. So we were in 14 offensive plays, and we win 20-14. We had one play in the third quarter, which was a touchdown. That is the only play that we run in the third quarter. And Livingston had a great game plan to come in, right? So they wanted the ball control, and they did that. They've done a great job of ball control. I mean, it was probably 2-1 when it comes, or probably even 3-1 when it comes to time of possession against us. But we had one play in the third quarter, which was a touchdown, and then we held them in one series in the fourth quarter. We went down and scored, and then they finished out the game. We stopped them on fourth down at about 13 to win the ball game. But in that game, as I mentioned, I've never played in a game or been in a game where we had 14 offensive plays, right? And you think you have 8-minute quarters there that you're playing. Even though it's only 8-minute quarters, you think 14 plays offensively in a game.
That's not many plays, and wow, it had to be just odd. That's just odd for me to hear. You have 14 offensive plays and you win the ball game. I mean, you just don't. It sounds like to me that Overton or Livingston was a ball control offense that just kind of tried to want to play keep away from you.
And they did. Our offense has shown at times that we can score pretty quick, right? So they wanted to limit the amount of possessions we had. And they've done a great job. Their game plan was great, right? And then look at some of the stats that we had in our game. We had Jolston Antonio. He had 6 carries for 51 yards, a good night. But you think once again 6 carries in a ball game, that's not a lot, right?
No.
And then you have Jay Nagy, who has 2 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. And then Colton Jenkins was 3 for 4 throwing the ball with 70 yards and a touchdown. And he had 2 carries for 53 yards and a couple of TDs. So offensively, when we touched the ball, we done damage, right? We did have one interception there early in the first half, or early in the second quarter. I'm sorry. But if you look at it, when we get the ball, we did damage with it, right? But they've done a great job. Their game plan was amazing when it come in to hold us to not have many offensive possessions.
And you talk about those stats. I mean, there's your 14 plays pretty much right there. So, congratulations. Great job. And I believe there's a big matchup on Tuesday night. I believe, is it in the hole or is it at Tiger Stadium?
It is in the hole.
In the hole.
Yeah, it's in the hole. Tuesday night, Gornsville's coming across the river to come play. It's our usually inter-county matchup. The last few years we've not been in the same, conference, you would say. Gornsville's in their own little conference, and we're not. But you always want to play the inter-county game, right? These kids know each other. They're going to come over. It's going to be a great atmosphere. So anybody that don't have anything to do Tuesday night, come support both of these programs, right? It's just not Smith County's middle school that you're supporting. You're actually supporting Gornsville's program as well. Come over, support these young men, and make it a great atmosphere, right? These are your kids that's going to play eventually on your Friday night football. And these guys love to have a big crowd too, right? I know the first home game we had a pretty good allotment of people there. We want more this week, right? So we want come watch the game and support these young men.
Right. Yeah. And, they deserve just as much recognition as the high school kids. And they earn the right to be there. They're starters too. And so come out and support them on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and I can't wait. It's going to be a great matchup. We're looking forward to it. Like I said, Tuesday night, 6:30. Gates open about 5:30. I think it's $5 gate entry, and then I think it's $1 for students. So come out, and enjoy it. Come support these young men. But Jonathan, now we'll move over to the Smith County side of the house. Let's talk about Smith County's game versus Watertown this past Friday night. We've talked about this a couple times on the phone already, that Smith County come out with a pretty good game plan offensively, I felt like. We had some new faces that come out and really showed what they could do. Talking about Dylan Raines, who has over 160 yards rushing in his first ever high school game, right? And he showed flashes that he could be a speedster down the field if he gets loose.
Right. And from my perspective, it seemed like he was maybe the bell cow type running back that you can turn around, hand it to him 20 times a game, and he's just going to get stronger as the game progresses. So Dylan had an absolute fabulous game. And just looking at it from a standpoint of looking at from last year coming off a 2-9 season. And for me, Smith County looked more enthusiastic on Friday night, ready to really get started. And they really hit Watertown in the mouth early. And it was a close ball game for sure. I mean, you look at it 28-23, and it came down to an onside kick. But from my perspective, the first half, it really looked like that Smith County set the tone and really said, okay, we're here. We know we were 2-9 last year. That's behind us. That we're going to look forward to what, and you had a lot of production from, I liked what I saw from Riley Martin. He managed the game really well. Didn't, no mistakes. Cole Hackett had a great offensively and defensively, had a great ball game. And so it just saw a lot of really good things on Friday night against a really good Watertown club.
Yeah, and you look, even more offensively and defensively, you got Gage Gibbs as well, right? So Gage Gibbs comes in and has a great night receiving, has a couple touchdowns there, has an interception on defense. But to me, and I want to talk to Coach Dyer about this when he comes on here in just a few minutes. We want to talk about the physicality that Smith County played with against Watertown. I feel like they was a little more physical than they have been in the last couple of years. And I know we talk about the teams they played last year and the teams that were really, really stacked that they had to play last year and the underclassmen that got a lot of playing time. But Smith County physicality was really evident to me while watching that game Friday night.
Absolutely. And, I heard Ethan Montgomery's name a lot from their announcers, in the trenches, making plays on defense. And even him on the offensive line was moving players. So absolutely, and now, we talked about the positives, but I want to touch on the negatives a little bit. It is game one, and I want to talk to Coach Dyer about this too, but we talked about it last year, penalties. You have 11 penalties for 100 yards. You get later on in the season, and I know Coach Dyer and the coaches are teaching these kids this, that, you can't have that many penalties and survive. You're going to be in a close ball game where, sometimes you're going to jump off sides. You're going to false start, but it's those critical personal foul penalties or a pass interference penalty that extends drives. I watched Beach and Green Hill on Thursday night, and there were several times in that game that there was a personal foul penalty or there was a pass interference that extended a drive, and they went in and scored. So, we've got to clean those things up. And I know Coach Dyer is working on that, but that to me was one of the negative things that I did see on Friday night.
Yeah, and look, we're talking about the offensive here, and Coach David Reed chimes in on our chat and say we're telling some lies here. So talk about the offense and Coach Reed while he wants to come in here. So we're going to talk about him for just a couple minutes. But a new philosophy coming in to what they've had in the past few years with Coach Hackett being the offensive coordinator. Now Coach Reed comes in and brings his own philosophy in, to tie into Coach Dyer's philosophy. But, I really think offensively, outside of a couple of miscues, they really did perform really well against a Watertown team that's not a slouch, right? So, but you talk about, it's game one, it's week one. You've had all off season. You had the Jamboree, which you show a little bit, right? You're kind of vanilla in the Jamboree, but you come out week one and then you show really what you got, right? And so, I was really impressed how we performed offensively.
Absolutely. Well, and you look at it offensively, and I really think, with Coach Reed and Coach Dyer, they want to be balanced. And you look at it, Smith County had 289-yard total offense and 168 on the ground, so they still had 130 in the air. So it's a balanced attack there. So and that's, to me, when you get at the collegiate level and the pro level, they talk about balance. They talk about wanting to be balanced, and it looked like to me that's what Smith County did Friday night.
He said he was talking about Cole Hackett was lying about Cole Hackett having a good game. Well, so you should have said that first, Coach Reed. But you're right. It was pretty balanced. In how Riley controlled the offense, and then the run to pass. You look, and we go back to Dylan Raines. We'll talk to Coach Dyer again about this more when it comes on. But you look at Dylan Raines, who has 26 carries, right, in his first ever high school game. So he's kind of the bell cow there, right? So you're trying to feed the ball. You want to be a running team, and Dylan did a really good job, right? He broke a long one for 45 yards for a touchdown. Game.
I think we're having
the game, right? So, Dylan really played really well come Friday night for his first ever game.
Yes, and I want to another thing I want to talk to Coach Dyer about is that week 1 to week 2, what growth do you want to see? We're all feeling warm and fuzzy about everything we saw on Friday night, but in his mind, what does he want to see this Friday night against Clay County?
Yeah, and Clay County comes in after a pretty lopsided loss. You're looking at a Clay County team last year that was in Region 1A, that was in the Region 1A championship versus Gornville last year, right? And makes it all the way to the semifinals. I think they make it all the way to the semis, if I'm not mistaken, last year. And then you come out week 1 and you get pretty much just ran all over the field against with Owensboro. Is that who you said? What, a team out of Kentucky?
No, I didn't have their score, but I do know they got beat.
Yeah, it was a team out of Kentucky that beat them.
Yeah,
that beat them pretty handily. And you look at that, where you think coming off the year that you guys just come off of, you got Nate Adams, which is a great quarterback, was up for some Mr. Football awards there, and then you come out in your first game and you lose, right? So now you got to go into hostile territory, coming down to the hole in Smith County at Smith County High School Friday night. And, Smith County's, like to say, they're looking to correct their 2-9 season from last year.
Absolutely. And you can just know that the atmosphere is going to be it's going to be great. And, I was trying to find who they played. It was some team out of Kentucky, but they got shut out. And so, they're going to be licking their wounds, but, you can't, they're going to come ready to play Friday night regardless.
Yeah, and they will. And we had a couple of coaches that left up there. Coach Mike Dickerson, who was their defensive coordinator, Glasgow. Coach Reed said they played. Glasgow. So Glasgow. So they played them. But anyway, talking about their coaching staff, they got some of the same coaches, but Coach Mike Dickerson, who's their defensive coordinator, who's now at Westmoreland, leaves Clay County, now goes to Westmoreland. So, even though you think one coach might not make a difference, but there's sometimes where they take their philosophy with them, new philosophy comes in. Well, now it's a learning process again, right? And that's the same way you look at when Coach Reed comes in. But a lot of these kids that, that's playing for Coach Reed and his offensive system has played for Coach Reed for 7 years, right?
Right.
All through middle school, all through youth league. And those, so they're used to it, right?
And that's what we talked about last year. It's a familiar voice, and they're familiar with the plays. And I talked about it last year. If you take a kid and you teach him the same thing over and over and over again, eventually, no matter his talent level, he's going to be at least serviceable in some way.
Yeah. You looked at looks like Glasgow beat Clay County 49-0.
Yeah.
So wow. I mean, what a game for Clay County. And now you got to come back, like I said, you got to come down here to Smith County. You got to play these guys. But touching on a little bit more about Smith County and defensively against Watertown, they start out, Watertown's up 6-0 to start off at the first quarter. Smith County storms back with 16 straight points. But then Watertown gets down at the end of the half, and Smith County holds them to a field goal, right? Mm-hmm. So Smith County's defense stood up. Not sure about Watertown's play calling at that time, but it is what it is. So Smith County stood the test and only held them to a field goal and go into the half winning 16-9.
Right. And I was on that end of the end zone, and it was very head scratching to me on the play calling that Watertown had there with the two passes on second and third down when they were at the 2-yard line. But again, Smith County held strong, holds them to a field goal, like you said, go up, 16-9, and then come out and drive down the field and score. And really, at that point, it felt pretty good about it. You've got to play 4 quarters for sure. But, all in all, just looking at it from a standpoint, you're coming off of not a great season last year, but saw a really good opening game for Smith County.
Yeah, it looks like Coach Dyer's trying to log in now. And guys, we apologize for the change of scenery tonight. We was supposed to be scheduled for at Acapulco Grill tonight, and Coach Dyer has some prior engagements. Coach Gammons has some prior engagements. That's why we're doing remote tonight. But Coach Dyer's fixing to jump in, and we'll talk to him a little bit about the ball game. But you look at it, Jonathan, and Smith County has Clay County coming in, but they got their first 4 games, if I'm not mistaken. None of those are region games, right? So you got your first 4 games that get you ready for region play, right? So you got Clay County coming in this week, which is a formidable 1A point. They're predicted to win their 1A region, which is going for the left, and they're predicted to win that 1A region. So they're going to come in Friday night looking to fix the 49-0 loss. They come in this Friday.
Yeah. They're not going to come in and just lay down and say here we go, or beat us. They're going to go back and fix their mistakes from that game. And I don't know a lot about the teams out of Kentucky. I know normally there's some teams up there that are really good, and so they'll be looking to come into the hole on Friday night ready to play.
Yeah, and looking at just people who's playing spots right now, and we'll talk to Coach Dyer about this too when he gets in. New faces that are playing for the Owls, a few new faces, right? So you still got your Ethan Montgomerys, you got your Bryson Halliburton, and your Eric Shaw, who's kind of anchoring that front for those guys. But then you have a transfer coming in out of Wilson County and actually played valuable minutes on the defensive side and the offensive side. He actually come in and spilled Dylan Raines a couple of times. Oh, let's Coach Dyer.
Right here.
Coach Dyer, can
Sorry,
you hear
guys,
us?
I was experiencing technical difficulties. Yeah, I can hear you. Y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, good deal. Sorry I'm making it difficult for you guys.
That's all right.
It's not a problem at all whatsoever. So, Coach Dyer, we'll start with you, and we'll talk about this past Friday night's game. You go into Watertown, and you're looking to right the ship, right? We talked about this a few minutes ago. You're looking to right the ship, and you go into Watertown, and you come out with a pretty solid win against not a bad Watertown team. But talk about that a little bit. Talk about how you felt after the game and how the game progressed along.
Well, first off, just talk about Watertown a little bit, man. They're a daggum good football team. They're a 3A team. Coach Gavin Webster, they're a long time. Had a good staff, great athletes. They were really up front, athletic up front, and their skill guys were just phenomenal. We had planned all night to not let 5, 7, or 8 beat us, and especially number 2 with his legs. Now, he made some big plays, but, our guys kind of rose up to the challenge, and we made the stops when we needed some stops. But we knew that Watertown was a talented team, a special team, and it was going to be, real good competition for us. And they took it down to the wire with us, And we had some chances to really kind of take over in that game. With the 2 muffed punts that we failed to recover, a couple of drop interceptions, the early interception that we threw when we were driving off the first interception in the first quarter. And we had a lot of penalties that put us behind the chains. And we just got to learn and to adapt to not let that affect us the way it did in those games. Now, I will say, we did allow some of those kind of missed opportunities to dictate the flow of the game. But we're still a relatively young team. I know when you say you got 20 juniors, you can't say you're a young team. But a lot of those guys, they're only in their second year starting as varsity members. And then we've got those freshmen that started last year playing this year. So we've got a little bit older team than last year, but we're still not very experienced with only 1 year of experience under a lot of these guys' belts. So it was a great learning experience for those guys as well to come away with a win in the fashion that they did, because there were so many kind of learning opportunity in that game for a team like we are. One, they had to claw themselves out of a deficit. They went down 2 scores, 9-0, and we answered with 22 points straight to go up 22-9. So that was one right there. A little early adversity. We threw the pick, gave up a touchdown, gave up a field goal, but also that was huge of our defense to get the stop that we had to give the goal try. They got down there around the goal line. They had a penalty that pushed them back, and then we stopped them on 3rd and 4th and 2, and they elected to kick the field goal. And so instead of going up, say 15-0 or 14-0, it's only a 9-0 ball game, and so all it took was one score from us to make it 6-0 or 6-9, and then we get the 2-point conversion, make it 9-8. We're right back in it, especially when we scored another 2-point conversion before halftime and go up 16-9. Getting the ball in the start of the third quarter, that was a huge momentum swing for us. So our guys learned how to claw out of a deficit, how to get, back in the ball game after being 2 scores down, how to build on a lead, and then also continue that lead out of half. But now at the end of the third quarter, that's when we had some penalties affect us. We had a turnover with the fumble with, I think, 2 or 3 minutes to go in the game when we had a chance to really ice it. But just kind of learn to deal with the ebbs and the flows of a game and the momentum to not rely solely on momentum to carry you through a game, but also to kind of take the good with the bad. So it was a lot of learning opportunities for, our young guys, our young guys, our less experienced guys. But also, at the end of the day, you just got to find a way to win. And that's what our guys did. So super proud of our guys and the fight that they had in that game. A bigger classification school in Watertown being 3A, a very athletic team, a well-coached team. And for us to come out with a win the way that we did, super proud of our guys, proud of our coaching staff, proud of everybody, and the way that they won that ball game.
Well, and Coach, for me, from what I'm hearing and from what I saw on Friday night, it was one of those things. That game last year, that's probably a game that we lose because we don't have that intestinal fortitude in us to battle back. And I saw that Friday night from a lot of guys. There was no give up Friday night.
Oh, definitely, yes. And we mentioned that in our coach's office, and a couple of parents came up to me Friday night after the game and said the exact same thing, that this team just feels different, looks different, acts different, because last year they go down like that 9-0 after the pick probably, or after you don't get it on 4th down, because we didn't get that 4th down when we were down 6-0. They could have packed it in right then, and it could have snowballed on them. But like you said, instead they fought back. They had the fortitude, the intestinal fortitude to kind of weather the storm a little bit, take the body blows, take the punches, never allow that clean just knockout punch, and started kind of delivering a few body shots to themselves. And now we got to learn, though, to give that knockout blow, because we had a chance to really kind of give that knockout blow a couple of times. When we went up 22-9, we missed out on a couple opportunities to really put that game out of reach for Town, but we allowed them to kind of claw back themselves and make a game of it late, especially with our defense giving up a couple of scores the way that we did on 2 tip balls that we allowed to be caught, one for a touchdown, one for a 1st down. We allowed a quarterback scramble on 3rd and 12. We had 2 dropped interceptions, and I also mentioned the 2 muff punts, but then the fumble on offense. So, we had some opportunities to kind of just give our own knockout shot, and that's just the thing. Young team, inexperienced team, you got to learn when to kind of keep your foot on the gas and give that knockout punch. But like you said, the team last year, they probably could have folded, might have wanted to fold it, might not have wanted to claw their way back. But these guys, they felt what it was like last year to be that way. They don't want that way to be this year. So it's definitely a special moment for those guys to learn that, hey, we've got some talent, we've got some ability. If we just keep fighting, and we can make the ball bounce our way, and we'll have good things happen for us. And that's what happened Friday night.
Yeah, and Coach, I got 4 things that I wrote down that I really want to talk to you about and get your comments on. One of them being, you got a new offensive philosophy. Kind of feels like this year, right? You got a new offensive coordinator come in that you've had for a different one from the last previous couple of years. Also, talk about Dylan Raines a little bit and what he brings to your program, a guy that's not played much football and now playing football. And then the other thing is the penalties, right? We got to clean up the penalties. You had 11 penalties for 100 yards, right? So that puts you behind the sticks quite often.
Yeah.
So talk about those three things there if you don't care.
Oh, yeah, definitely. When you go from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 40, that's not good for anybody or anything. When you're sitting there asking the whole staff's like, what's a play for 2nd and 40? But yeah, just a little bit more discipline, a little bit better fundamentals, and that's what we talked about in our coaches meeting today. Just what are some things that we need to go back on when we start practice on Monday of working on that we need to do. And one is our perimeter blocking. That caused a lot of issues with us when we were trying to run our outside zone, our speed, our jet speed. We were for holding out the perimeter just because not running our feet, on a blocker and just snap and grab. And so little things like that, we're going to fix, we're going to soar up because we can't continuously get behind the chains like that and get off schedule in our drives, because we had a really good drive canceled out by those daggum penalties, because we get the interception and we're driving, and then boom, we go from being 1st and 10 on their side of the 50 to 2nd and 40 on our side. That's not good for anybody. So yeah, we got to clean up on the penalties, and we'll address that and get that worked out starting Monday. But Dylan Raines, yes, he had a great kind of aha moment. His first varsity football game, and really I think it's only like his 4th ever football game that he's played in, because he only played in a handful, I believe, in middle school or junior high.
Yep.
And so he finally kind of had his explosive on the scene moment where I think 171 yards, 25 or 20 carries, and a touchdown. Biggest thing, we just got to work on his ball security, because I think in our jamboree and our game, he's had 2 or 3 fumbles, 3 or 4 fumbles maybe.
Yeah.
So, and that's stuff you can work on in practice, just teaching him how to cover the ball up a little bit more. And he's going to get better with that with more experience of carrying the ball in games. And realistically, he probably carried the ball probably about 10 more times than what we had really planned on him carrying the ball. But with Caden Mason being out, he's going to be one of our primary ball carriers. We kind of had to put a little heavier workload on him, but also just, we're going to ride a hot hand, and Watertown had a hard time tackling him, and our offensive line was doing such a great job of creating lanes for him. Our tight ends, our fullbacks were doing a great job on our power and buck sweep. So it was kind of just a ride hot hand, let him keep going, let him keep eating. So, we don't want to give our back more than 20 or so carries. One, just to keep him fresh throughout the game, keep our legs, underneath us, but also it's a long season. We don't want to burn them out early in the year, but also because we got so many other different athletes that we're trying to get the ball to and spread the ball around to create explosive plays. One being Gage Gibbs. He had a great game. I believe he had 3 or 4 catches, 2 touchdowns, 2 deep that we were able to connect on. So being able to use his athleticism, his explosive athletic ability where he can jump up, high point, grab those balls, and one, even get behind defenders, and then also use Riley's kind of arm strength to where he can stretch the field like that. But Cole Hackett's another one. He had, I believe, 2 or 3 or 4 catches, a couple of key first downs, but he's just he's an athlete that can find green grass. He's got a good relationship with Riley. Sometimes a little too good relationship with Riley, and the fact that Riley won't go through a progression. Instead, it's when the ball snapped, he knows, okay, Cole Hackett's out there somewhere. I'm going to chuck and duck it and just get it to him. But those two guys have been playing football together for a long time, and that's what you want at your athletes, to have that just good relationship where they know each other are playmakers and they're going to make the plays with each other. But, just being able to spread the ball around our playmakers, that's what we ideally want to do. And you mentioned, Coach Reed and our offensive philosophy. Our philosophy ain't changed much, that we want to try to run the ball, evident in Friday night, that everything that we start or want to build upon, we want to build upon our run game. And that's kind of where we've been the last few years. Last year, it was tough. It was hard. Had a new offensive line, young freshman running back. And it was tough to get that going. Plus, being down early so many games, it's kind of hard to want to really establish a run game when you're down by 3 or 4 scores. But And I believe we were very balanced Friday night. Looking at the stat sheet, I think we had somewhere around 170, 165 rush yards, 130 something pass yards. We had right under 300 total yards. So very balanced in our attack. We had the big explosive plays, but we also had, pretty methodical, consistent drives as well. I believe we had 3 scoring plays of over 30 yards. So anytime you can hit those explosive plays, that's going to help your momentum in games. But also that's part of our new philosophy, if that's what you want to call it, that use the advantage of having our athletic playmakers. So if we can create explosive plays and generate explosive plays, we're going to take advantage of that. And we really liked what we had on the outside and on the perimeter with our guys versus their guys. So whenever we saw that, we wanted to exploit it. We wanted to use that, and it worked out for us, especially on the trick play that we had on the reverse pass. We knew we had those guys kind of suckering up on buck sweep action because we ran it so well in the first half. Landon Blevins made a great throw on the reverse pass. We picked up a big chunk right there, and we were able to extend a drive and score on that drive. So, yeah, just being able to generate big plays, explosive plays, be more consistent in our run game, and then use our athletes on the outside and on the perimeter to attack opposing defenses. And then also, Dylan Raines had a great game, great job running the ball. But some things we just got to shore up with the fumbles, the turnovers, and the penalties. And like I said, we can fix all that in a weeks of practice preparing for Clay County this week.
Well, and speaking of Gage Gibbs, Coach, we're going to bring Gage in now. Gage was selected as our Dugout Dads Player of the Week. And Coach, if you want to talk about Gage a little bit, Gage is joining us here now.
Yeah, Gage, he's a junior for us. Last year, his season got cut short because of injury. But like I said, he's one of our dynamic playmakers. We know that if we throw a 50-50 ball up to him, that it's more like a 70-30 ball, 70 being in his favor just because of his athletic ability, being able to jump out of the roof. He can stretch the field. He's got deceptive speed because he is so tall. He's built those long wingspan, long legs, long strides, so he can separate pretty quick from a defender. And then once again, like I said, with Cole, him and Riley, he knows that if he can hit Cole somewhere underneath, he can hit Gage somewhere over the top. But yeah, he had a great night against Watertown. Like I said, I think he had 3 or 4 catches for 70, 75 something yards, 2 touchdowns. The last one being a huge touchdown. I want to say it was on 3rd and long, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, something like that. We like the matchup.
I think Coach Dyer's buffering just a little bit there.
Well, Gage, congratulations! Congratulations on a big win on Friday night. Just talk to us a little bit about how it went, and again, congratulations on being our Player of the Week.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It went good.
Basically, time, it was very good.
It felt real good to win.
And I paused.
We're having some issues with Matt. So.
So was I just talking and jibber jabbering on? Y'all couldn't hear a thing of word I said.
Yeah, we can.
What I do? Press mute.
That's okay. That's all right.
Dang, what a slap!
Gage, go ahead.
It felt good to win after going 2-9, and I felt like we worked really good as a team together, and I feel like we're gonna win a lot of games this year.
Yeah, talk about a little bit, Gage. On your 2 touchdown plays, the last one being up, you go up over a guy to make the catch, right? And you come down, you beat him down as probably an outside release fade. If I know Coach Reed, I'm sure that's what you run. So you go down and you make that catch. Talk about that play just a little bit and how that all panned out for you.
I mean, Coach just trusted me, and it was I can't remember what down it was, but we needed to get a first down, and Riley threw me a good ball, and I just caught it and scored.
Yeah, and we talk about a little bit, Gage. You play both sides of the ball, right? So you play offense, you play receiver, you're playing as a free safety on defense, and actually moving around a little bit on defense. Which is your favorite position? You like offense or you like defense better?
I like scoring the ball more.
I figured that.
But I like doing whatever helps the team, whatever we got to do to win.
So, Gage, looking at it, what's your outlook for this season? What do you want to see? What's your biggest goal this season?
I mean, the goal, I want to win state this year. I feel like we got a good enough team too. And if we just gel together and work together this year, we got a good chance.
Yeah, and Gage, we give everybody that's ever come on our show as a student athlete, we give them the opportunity to rag on their coach, right? Coach Dyer's on the phone with us too. You have the opportunity to rag on Coach Dyer if you want to rag on Coach Dyer right now. And
No,
it cannot be held against you in practice this week.
no, I don't got anything.
On any of your coaches? Nothing.
No, I don't got any.
Well, Gage, congratulations on the win this Friday night. We're looking forward to seeing you guys against Clay County this upcoming Friday night here in the Hole. Congratulations on being the Dugout Dad Sports Podcast Player of the Week, and we'll get with you and get you your shirt. And just congratulations overall on a good Friday night.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Gage.
Thanks, Gage.
Welcome.
And then, Coach Dyer, we'll turn back over to you now. We gave Gage the opportunity to rag on you. He didn't want to, right? So, but we'll turn back over to you now and talk about a little bit about Clay County coming in. Let's talk about that matchup just a little bit.
Yeah. So, they had a little bit of a setback last week with Glasgow, Kentucky, but I don't know much about Glasgow. I know we've seen the film. They're a very big team, very athletic team. I would imagine they're one of the probably bigger schools in Kentucky after looking at their stadium, turf field, and everything like that. So I don't know much to gauge from that film or from that game, but I do know they scrimmaged White County early in the season, and they looked very good against White County. They don't have a lot of guys on their roster. I believe they've only got about 27 guys on their roster, but they've got some good-looking athletes. Their running back is number 9. The quarterback's number 1. Quarterback didn't play last week because he got ejected from their quarterfinal playoff game last season, so he had to sit out the first game of this season. Gotcha. But he's a very exceptional athlete. It's the Adams kid. He's a bigger kid. He's fast. He's quick. He's shifty. They want to run him a lot. A lot of their offense goes through number 1 and number 9. Their running back and their quarterback. Everything they want to do, they want to show 900 different formations. They want to get out in empties, trips, quads. Everything they want to do, they want to lighten the box. They want you to move your defense around. They want to dictate. They want to dictate your defense by what they're doing by formation to try to get an edge or get an advantage in numbers. Coach Bruce Lamb and their staff and Coach Beatty, they do a very good job with what they've got. They don't have the same athletes they've had the last few years out on the perimeter, but they've still got a very good football team. They got a huge offensive line. They're very big up front, and everything they do goes through the quarterback and the running back. So if they can create a lot of explosive plays and a lot of run lanes, that's when they will get you to kind of put more people in that box. And then they want to try to hit their nows and their screens and their bubbles, and they've got some RPOs that they want to hit. So a lot of what they want to do is predicated on if they can spread you out, then they're going to run 1 and 9. But if you want to try to keep that tight box, then they try to throw it out to the numbers and they try to create space. But their 2 best athletes are definitely their quarterback and their running back, and everything they're going to do is going to go through them. Defensively, they know how to get a lot of hats to the football. They're going to get in some type of 4-2-5 or 3-3 stack where they can have about 7 to 8 guys within 5 yards of the ball. A lot of times in defense, they're going to stay some type of cover 3, single high. But the reason they do that because they have such trust, it seems on film, in their defensive front. They love their outside linebackers coming up, bringing pressure. They love their stack backers. Number 9 that plays running back plays one of those middle linebackers. He's a big kid, a fast kid, great athlete. He gets downhill very well, so we're going to have to get a hat on him to not let him disrupt our run game. And then their quarterback, number 1, who might be their best player, he plays that kind of outside linebacker, stack, pony, whatever you want to call it, star. Biggest thing is if we can run at him all night and make him make tackles, maybe he'll be a little less inclined to run the ball that hard. I don't know. But a lot of what they do, they spread it out and they spread you out so that they can try to run the ball with their 2 best athletes. But Coach Lamb, he's been doing it a long time. He's going to have a great game plan together. He knows how to get the best out of what athletes he has, and it's going to be a real good night for us. Competition-wise, it's going to be a great game, and we got to take the momentum we've got from last Friday night, take it into this week, and then also kind of build on that a little bit, but then fix some of those issues that we had Friday night with the penalties, missed blocks, turnovers, and not let those things happen, against Clay County, because if you do those things in any game, you're cutting your chances of success in half, and somebody can sneak up and get you, whether they lost 40-0 the week before or they won 40-0. It doesn't matter. You got to treat every opponent the same, and you got to prepare like that opponent's coming in to just beat you by 40 points.
Well, Matt, we appreciate you coming on with us. We look forward to seeing you back out at Acapulco. Good luck this week, and hope everybody comes out to the hole and, just go Owls.
Hey, guys, appreciate y'all what you do, man. I really do. Everything y'all do, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach Dyer.
Thanks.
Hey.
And one thing about Coach Dyer right now, you can tell from last year going from 2-9, Jonathan, to there's a little bit of excitement in the program now. A little bit more excitement that you can see from the fans and from the coaching staff, even from the players. You listen to Gage, right there. If you'd asked him last year, he probably would have said, "Hey, I want to win state." But in the back of his mind, he knew that they didn't have the team to win state last year.
No, right.
But now you look at it, you look at the excitement that's brought back into the program right now.
Yes, and that was what I seen. The kids were all high-fiving each other on Friday night. They were jumping around. They were celebrating. And you didn't see that much last year. And part of that was youth. Part of it was, numbers. They had injuries out the wazoo last year. So it was a detriment last year. And I'm anxious to see from week 1 to week 2. They say that's one of the things that you hear about, that growth period from week 1 to week 2. And let's see what happens this Friday night. Of course, I had forgotten about the kid that got thrown out for Clay County.
Too.
And so they didn't have their quarterback. So he'll be back this week. So I'm expecting a really good ball game this Friday night in the hole.
Yep. And, we appreciate Coach Dyer. Gage, we'll come get you your shirt this week, and we'll get the picture we put on our Facebook page. But moving over to the other side of the river, let's talk about Gornsville just for a couple minutes here. As we talked about, they go down to up to Cofield, go up to Cofield, and they come back with we think a 21-18 win going up there and playing those guys. But Cofield been a perennial 1A power. Now Gornsville moved up to 2A, but they've played each other numerous times in the playoffs to get to the semifinals, or even the one year they get to the championship game. Gornsville beat them to go on 2012 to go to the championship game. But you look at. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. Yeah, so you look at it a little bit, and they come in and they had a few miscues. They had some turnovers there that they're probably going to try to sew up this week. And it sounds like we had a couple injuries that hopefully that don't affect them as the year goes on. But you look at some of the stuff that happened there with Turner Booker at 15 carries, 90 yards, and 2 TDs. We talked about Turner last year a lot, coming in as a freshman last year, and playing a lot of valuable minutes and playing the running back spot for him. But he goes up there and he steps in for Jamario, who got hurt there. I think in the game at some point, he only had a couple of carries in the game, but, Turner Booker kind of takes that load and helps the Tigers, come out with, we think, a 21-18 victory.
Right. And you look at it from a standpoint of Gornsville, to me, has skill position players that are speedsters, and Turner Booker being one of them. And then you got, you look at Camrick Stott, had 2 catches for 37 yards. And then, of course, Jamario, we think got injured, and again, it's hard to really gauge on that game because it got called with, it got called in the third quarter.
It was 118 to go in the third.
And so, but again, for me, absolutely, you look at Turner Booker, he had a great ball game and 2 touchdowns. And then you look at, their first score was on a punt return.
Yeah.
Cofield gave up a punt return. So special teams, might need to shore up some things there. But, special teams early in the season are always, you just never know. But a great win, if it's truly going to be a win. Again, Coalfield is always one of the perennial powers. They have to go up against South Pittsburgh, and in that area, it's always going to be tough going up against South Pittsburgh. But Coalfield has got a good program. They're always in the playoffs. So, a great start to the season for the Tigers.
And you look at it, too, Gordonsville graduates, 12, 13, 14 seniors last year who all played specific roles for them. A lot of their linemen graduated outright. So, they're replacing quite a few guys on the offensive front. There, you still got Bobby Cripps. He's playing good defense for him right now. Joe Clemens' son, who's now the center for the Tigers. He's playing center for them, so it's a sophomore coming in playing center. So they may have some growing pains at the up front, but defensively, just watching the game, they flew around the ball quite a bit, and you talked about their skill guys, so they're flying around the ball, making plays on defense. You look at Brooks Stafford and Mason Cross and some of those young guys, Waylon Kennedy, all those young guys that are playing valuable minutes for the Tigers this year, and you see them, next week, have Watertown coming over to the Jungle. So Watertown coming in, you'll see we'll be Watertown 2 weeks in a row. We see them against Smith County, now see them against Gordonsville. So you see what their transition, like you said, Smith County, what is Gordonsville's transition from week 1 to week 2?
Absolutely. So, and that'll be good to see. We'll have kind of a matchup where we can compare. They'll both have played Watertown, so we'll be able to see, how that plays itself out on Friday night. So, and I know the Jungle will be hopping this coming Friday night for
and what's funny about that is it's always you always talk about Smith County, the Gordonsville rivalry. I'm a Gordonsville graduate, so I've been a part of that program for a lot of my life. But Watertown was always a huge rivalry, right? So when Watertown comes to town, it's going to be a pretty electric atmosphere in Gordonsville. It's going to be rowdiness going on. I'm sure that place will be packed, and hoping for a good game, injury-free game for the Tigers. Because we want to see, let's be honest, we want to see that Week 10 matchup or Week 11 matchup with Smith County and Gordonsville for the region championship, all players healthy, right? You want a matchup where everybody's healthy going into it and see who's the best, right? And that's what you want, and we can't wait for that to happen.
Absolutely. And, looking at, I'll go over some of the Week 2 matchups. We just touched on it. You got Watertown at Gordonsville. You got White House at DeKalb. You got Midway at Jackson County. Of course, Clay County comes to Smith. Whites Creek travels to Gordonsville, and a big matchup here with Macon County and Westmoreland. I'm interested to see how that game plays out. Macon County had a big win over Knox Catholic, I think, 40-something to 6 or something.
Knox Fulton.
Yeah. And then you got Siegel at Lebanon. So a lot of good local matchups this coming week. Of course, home openers for both Smith County and Gordonsville. So real exciting this coming Friday night.
Yeah, I can't wait for next weekend's show, to talk about, and hopefully we can have Coach Jackson, one of his coaches, come on and talk a little bit about Gordonsville football, but to have Coach Steyer come on and be live with us there at Acapulco Grill next Sunday at 6 o'clock and talk about, getting into, you look at week 1, week one's kind of your warm-up week, right? You kind of try to get the rust knocked off, but that week 2 matchup, you kind of gives you what you're going to see throughout the year, and that's what I'm really looking forward to talking to coaches about come next Sunday night.
Absolutely. And see the progression, see, what changes were made, were there new implementations of different formations or different plays, are we sticking with the same game plan that we were, which, for Smith County's perspective, that balance attack looked pretty good Friday night.
Yep. And we can't forget that we got a Dugout Dads Player of the Week for Gordonsville as well.
Yes.
We're going to announce that. And this week, our Dugout Dads Player of the Week for Gordonsville will be Turner Booker, right? 15 carries, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. He took the load for the rushing game for 3 quarters at least, and come in and replaced injured Jamario Williams that we think, but carried the load, 90 yards and 2 TDs for a sophomore. I mean, what a heck of a game for him. So congratulations to Turner Booker for being the Dugout Dads Player of the Week.
And guys, we will get with you this week to get your picture. And we'll come over to Gordonsville High School and Smith County High School and get pictures and post them to our page. So congratulations to Gage and Turner.
Yep. And, once again, Jonathan, week 2 for Dugout Dads. I like to say we talk about this every week, guys. We love doing this show. We love coming on here. We love talking about our local high schools and our local middle schools and just highlighting what these guys are doing throughout the year, and not just football, but we try to incorporate every sport. So you'll see us in the next couple of weeks. We'll bring on some soccer. I know we got girls soccer going on right now. We got some golf going on right now. Bring Landon Kent back in. Volleyball going on right now. We got cross country going on. There's all kinds of different sports that are going on, not just football. So we're going to bring those guys in. We're going to highlight those guys. We're going to have them come to Acapulco. We'll have our players segment one night this month where nothing but players come in. We can't wait to do that. We want to continue to really highlight both high schools here in the county.
And we've got golfers at Gornsville too. We got Jude Summers, and of course I've been following Landon pretty good, and their golf season is off to a rip roaring start. She's playing well. So we're going to reach out to you guys. We want you to come on the show, especially when we have our players segment. And so just come on with us, have a chat with us, because we want to. This is about you guys. This show is not about Michael or myself. We want this to be about our student athletes here in the county.
Yep. And Jonathan, I'd be remiss if I don't bring on our I guess our mascot of the Dugout Dads. Right, we're going to bring out our mascot here. Here's our mascot of the Dugout Dads. This is Darla. She's our now state champion, Tennessee State Fair champion dog show winner here. So this is Darla. If y'all ain't met Darla, this is our mascot of the Dugout Dads. Me and JP hang out with Darla quite often.
Absolutely, and she's a riot too.
She is a riot. But if you ever see Darla out, she's going to be one of the most popular dogs in Smith County before it's over with.
Absolutely.
But once again, we appreciate. We won't all, like I say, just getting off topic there a little bit. But this show is about the community, right? It's not about Smith County. It's not about Gornsville. It's about the community of Smith County, right? The whole county in general. We're going to bring some youth league folks in this year, like we did last year. We're going to highlight all these guys, and all these gals. They need recognition, right? We're going to bring the cheerleaders in. We had a cheerleader episode last year where some cheerleaders came in. Both cheerleaders from programs from both high schools are doing wonderful things, right? They go to Disney and they compete in all these competitions. We want to highlight those ladies too, because that's a skill that you always hear that cheerleading is not really a sport. Well, it is a sport, right? It is a sport, and
yes, it is.
And those ladies work just as hard as any other athlete does. So we want to highlight those girls as well.
And guys, if you're out there, if you got ideas for us, anything that we can do to make this better, guys, we're open to any suggestions. And we want this to be y'all's show just like it is our show, and more focused in on our student athletes.
Yeah, and once again, guys, we want to thank our sponsors. If you see the backdrop behind me, you see all three of our sponsors on the backdrop. If you want to be a sponsor for Dugout Dads, contact myself, Jonathan, or Matthew. We'll get with you, and we'll get you to be a sponsor. We're always looking for more sponsors. We'll put you on the backdrop. We put you on our T-shirts. We'll highlight you on our show here. If you want to be a sponsor, come be a sponsor. But we got to thank our title sponsor, Kobe McKinney, once again from Underwood Realty. #Hollies and be the gift for our Player of the Week shirts, and then Infinity Promotions for all of our swag and our backdrops and our tablecloth. We couldn't do it without our sponsors, without you guys that's listened to us. We may have 5 listeners at one time. We may have 50. We don't never know what we're going to have, but we're going to keep doing it because we love doing it.
Absolutely. And looking forward to next week, we're not only going to have high school, college football starts next week.
College football.
We'll be covering our favorite team in Tennessee, and some of the local surrounding. Maryville College with the Curry kid, Bryson Curry. He should be in his senior year.
I believe the senior year at Maryville College is where he plays. Yep,
so
Maryville College is where he plays. Yep.
We'll be covering that as well. And so guys, just again, if there's anything that we can do to make this better, please let us know.
Yep. And once again, we appreciate everybody that's listening tonight. All the comments that's come in. We appreciate that. We didn't get to our Ask the Coach segment tonight. Coach Dyer had a little bit of latency there, but we'll get back to that next week, our Ask the Coach segment. But for myself and Matthew and Jonathan, we appreciate everybody listening. From the Dugout Dads, we appreciate you. Our skills are questionable,
but our spirit is unstoppable.
Until next time.